Hi everyone, we are working with the third graders right now, and you have your book, which looks like so, and we are on lesson 4, which can be found on page 40, so I'll give you a couple seconds to get there. All right, we're working on analyzing literature. And analyze literature, you look at more closely at a story, poem, and play you have read, right? So this is comparing text and then contrasting text, right? So compare means when you're looking at how things are similar, and then contrasting is when you're looking at how things are different. Now this can also be when we're making our self-to-text connections that you guys make so awesomely in class, right? So you're comparing and contrasting yourself to the text, right? How are you similar to it? How are you different to the characters that we read about? And then we have recount the stories. And you retell what you have read. Describe the story parts such as setting, characters, plot, and theme, right? This also works with comprehension. Remember, you have to stop, think about what I read, check my understanding. Did I understand everything? Okay, and then you go back. And then you said if you do or you don't. If you don't, you go back and repeat it. And you reread. And then if you did understand it all, then you move on. All right? So basically the same thing. You're recounting, you're retelling what you've read in the story to make sure you remember it. Then you have to compare and contrast plots, which they show you a little diagram over here, a nice chart for you guys to fill out. It says that plot is what happens in the story, right? It's the beginning, it's the middle, and it's the end. So you're going to be comparing that. You're going to be comparing the beginning, middle, and end of stories. Then you have to ask, how are the problems alike and different, right? Alike would be compare, and different would be contrast. Then how do the characters solve them, right? There's usually a problem. How did the characters solve the problem? And then you're going to use the chart below, which looks like this, right? So you would write the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the ending of the story with the problem here, and then the solution here for both of them. And they're right next to each other, so it's very nice. Easy to compare and contrast. Then you can compare and contrast characters, right? You can do their actions. How they solve the problems could be very different. They could have the same exact problem, but have two different solutions on how they do it. Then you have comparing and contrasting setting, which is you're comparing and contrasting the locations, the time, and you can even where it takes place, what time of day it is, if it's in the past, present, or future. And then you can also see the time periods on how the characters dress and speak, and the technology that's used, right? Because the cars that we had in the past are not the cars that we have now, right? They have changed over time. Same thing with dress. Fashion changes all the time. The same fashion that's in today is not the time that was in the past. And you can usually tell from what characters are wearing, what kind of time period they are in because of the fashion style then. Then you have compare and contrast themes, right? What does the author want you to take away? It can be different from story to story. And then when you flip the page, you can compare the points of view, right? And then they have a comparing and contrasting checklist for you guys. You should all be familiar with it because that's how we used to grade our things, right? We all have the checklist. You guys saw the checklist that were in our binders, and we've used them before when we've done our writings. And then we're studying in our language spotlight root words, which some of you guys have used in your spelling words when you have to identify the base word in your spelling. For this one, the base word they're using is use. So you can look through there and figure that out. Remember, it's the word, it's the base word, and then there's always either something added to the beginning or the ending. If it's added to the beginning, it's a prefix. If it's added to the end, it's an suffix. So you're going to be reading your stories here and then answering the questions. And I just have to tell you guys, when you get to the review, there's some really cool stories here. So I have to tell you guys, you have the raven gives the world light. And I think you have another raven story too. And I have to tell you, I grew up on the Raven stories. They're amazing. And they tell different reasons on, usually they're Native American tales, and they tell different reasons on why they think some things happen in the world that they do. How did we get light? So that's what the other story is. And then the next story you're reading about the raven is the raven has a feast. And there's so many of them, and they're always super interesting, and they're amazing. And we'll definitely talk about them when you guys get back. So enjoy those. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys